In this video, we're going to solve different percent questions using some various strategies. So our first question is, what is 6.5% of 20? First thing we want to do is switch 6.5% to a decimal. So that would be 6.5%. Remember, of means multiply, and 20. Next, I'm going to change my 6.5% to a decimal by jumping to the left 2 times, which gives me 65 thousandths times 20, which equals 1 3/10. So 6.5% of 20 is 1 3/10. Now we want to figure out what number is 25% of 40. For this strategy, we're going to simplify our 25 hundredths to 1/4 and then make an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 40 to find our missing value. 4 times 10 makes 40, so we do the same thing with the numerator to keep them equivalent. 1 times 10 is 10. So 10 is 25% of 40. In this question, we want to figure out what percent out of a total of 50 does 10 represent. So we've set up our proportion. Remember, percent is always out of 100. In this question, you notice that we can multiply 50 by 2 to make 100. So same thing with my numerator, 10 times 2, n equals 20%. So 10 is 20% of 50. To figure out what 1.8 is as a percentage out of 20, we're going to try to isolate our variable of n to solve this equation. So first thing I'm going to do is convert my 1 8/10 out of 20 to a decimal, which is 9 hundredths. And then I keep my fraction that I'm trying to figure out my percent. To isolate the variable n, I need to perform the inverse operation. So the inverse of dividing by 100 is multiplying by 100. I need to do the same operation on each side to make sure that my equation stays balanced. When I multiply each side by 100, n is 9%. So 1 8/10 is 9% of 20. In this question, I'm trying to figure out 35% of a number is 105. So 35% and 105 go in the same spot in our proportion, and we're trying to figure out the total number. It may not be as easy to see right away what we have to multiply 35 by to get 105. So we can do 105 divided by 35, which is 3, to help us to figure out that 35 times 3 makes 105. Same thing with our denominator, 100 times 3 gives a total of 300. So 105 is 35% out of a total of 300. In this question, we want to figure out 6/10 is 15% out of a total of what number? So the 15% and the 6/10 are in the same spot in our fraction. To isolate the variable n, it's easiest if it's in the numerator. So first we're going to take the reciprocal of each fraction and write that to solve our question. To isolate the n, the opposite of dividing by 6/10 is multiplying by 6/10. So we're going to multiply by 6/10 on the right-hand side of the equation and multiply by 6/10 on the left-hand side of the equation to get a value of n equals 4. So 6/10 is 15% out of a total of 4.